Hello everybody, welcome to Corey's Thoughts on Pathway, which it's at the end of my Let's Play series. If you watched part 4, where I lost that adventure, I talked about how I was going to put on a video where I talked about my thoughts of the game and how I felt about it. So I'm going to let the credits run because I do like this game, and it's good kind of just having me sit at the title screen. I wanted to not play any more of it while I talk about my thoughts, just because I think that's kind of distracting, and I like the music for this. So, Pathway. If you haven't seen my Let's Play, you can go through watch it. If not, I'm pretty much just gonna talk about what I found this experience playing the game has been, and just kind of what has ultimately led to me stop playing Pathway. So I've played it a few more times, and the difficulty curve gets a lot higher the farther that you go along, with more enemy types, general tweaks to health and stuff, and different things like that, which led to me failing. And I've played that second adventure a few more times. I have beaten it, unlocked a few more characters which are interesting, and then on the third one I've just constantly hit my head against it. And so I'm probably going to walk away from Pathway from this point forward, just to kind of not get to the end of the review before I've started, because I did have a lot of fun with it. I just found that I've enjoyed the time that I put in with Pathway, and I'm okay to move on from it. So I sat down and tried to total the hours I put into this, and because of the fact that I play it on two different computers, it gets a little weird, due to the fact that I own it, but it's to play it on the recording one, I have to play it offline mode, and it's like that. So, but when I put all the hours together of, what I've recorded and what I've played on my own, it's come out to be about 24 hours, which isn't anything to shake a stick at, considering how many runs I've done of it. And I have my own account that I play on my own kind of personal gaming computer, and so at $20 and me getting 24 hours of content out of it, I'm pretty happy, because I look at things in the way of, like, if I'm going to spend money on it, it needs to be worth the money that I'm investing. And so for every hour I enjoyed it, it's like I spent $1, which, in looking at a movie or looking at kind of some of the other forms of entertainment, I just take it as a win for me. And the positives to continue of the fact that I think, even though I didn't get to the end of the game, I like it, and I'll probably come back around to it, is that it's charming. It's got I like the Indiana Jones aesthetic. I like the little backstories to the characters, on how my sniper was afraid of zombies. No, my sniper was afraid of hurting Germans because he was a German-born citizen. And so he did less damage to Germans, but he was super good at one-shotting zombies compared to my shot character, who... Actually, here, since we went through the credits, that way I'm not butchering these people's names. So I'll go in. I haven't played more on this account. So if we go in, I'm going to heal these guys up just because I feel bad. I just let them be dead. Since I'm not going to play anymore on this PC anyway. But for instance, Baron and Miguel were awesome. Miguel was strong versus Nazis, and Baron was weak versus Nazis, but despite that, they were pretty much my favorite team going through the second mission. And I actually continued to use them as my main guys until I ended up unlocking Monsieur Carlo Venduti, who is a great healer in strong versus undead, because he kind of replaced the fact for me that that Baron was weak versus Nazis and good versus undead. So once I got Venduti, the Italian Vatican legate, because he's a priest, he's good against undead, I was able to deal average damage against Nazis and above damage against undead. And to him and him and Miguel just wrecked it for me and got me up to the third act where I was having trouble progressing. And I cared about these characters. They're like, I love Miguel. Miguel's like almost level 5 in my other account that I have on my computer. And I find that, like, he's awesome. I love the fact the whole thing is that he's a Spanish Civil War poet, and that's why he's a grenade expert. He's strong versus Nazis. Like, everything to do about him is the fact that, you know, this is his backstory. And that's why his strengths are what they are. Including the fact that, like, Veduti is the same way. He is a Vatican legate. He's good against the undead. He literally is like a warrior of God. Now, his aim's bad, but when you go into his skills, and you look at his skill tree, his medkit goes up, his dexterity goes up, his healer goes up, and when you finally get down here, though, you can really start getting the damage up, the rifling up, the crit chance up. And I like the fact that he was a medic, undead damage. It's nice to kind of have that on my team. One of the things I ran into on my last streaming thing was the fact that I had Jackson, Baron had his grenades and couldn't heal Jackson up. The only starter medic is Natalia, because the way it works is you need to have a skill to equip a med kit. So some of your characters are just not ever going to be able to be a healer. And that's the problem I ran into. I had a bunch of guys with skills like, I know how to use knives, and Miguel knows how to use bombs, and Jackson knows how to use assault rifles and knives, but, you know, of all my people, none of them knew how to use a med kit. He knew how to use a repair kit, did not know how to do a med kit. But I like the fact that the characters are just characters. There are things that they're good at, there's things that they're not good at, and you kind of get to pick and choose the story. Like Omar, I didn't know about Omar that much before my run because I haven't recruited him before. And I mean, look, he became such a key part. He understood the ancient languages. He was superstitious, which made him worse against undead. He was a brute, so he was able to kind of force certain event trees. So not only was Omar cool, but he made me think more about the perk system. Of the fact that, like, you know, looking at the perks that he has, he's just anti-fascist and intimidation. He's a great soldier. But Miguel wasn't anywhere near as good as Omar was when I needed to work with the locals. Or, you know, I needed some brute strength options. The same here, like the big game hunter is more damage against animals, resilient, survivalist. Survivalist is great when you deal with Piranha Pierre, Brazilian steamboat smuggler. When you have him on some missions, you get some interesting outcomes. And so no matter what team you pick, you kind of get these little events that are different because you pick them. And I'm trying to get through all the good things that I like about this. The enemy types are very varied. The zombies are interesting in the fact of, like, they have poison zombies, and then they have the big brain zombies. The Nazis get more and more organized as you kind of follow them and meet more resistance. And the tactics that they use get more interesting. Like, I'm trying to talk about the series because that's what you guys have seen me play for my examples. The medic healed the one soldier up. He ran away. He only had like 8 health left, and the medic came over, gave him a med kit. And that's the thing, and they don't just kind of like duck and hide and shoot at you. They start to be like, okay, well, I need to retreat now because I know there's a medic on my team. Instead of going for another shot, if I can get more HP, then it's worth it for me to go back and do that and get out of firing range. So all that stuff is good about this game, and it was very fun to play, and I still had fun playing it up until where I've hit in the third mission, which, to make sure I'm not butchering, Night of the Black Pharaoh, which is a lot more undead, and starts to get some cult enemies in there with magic, so it's a little different than what I was able to show through the Let's Play. But as I kind of hit the third thing, and I've redone these a few times, I'm going to start with some of the negative points of playing Pathway. So some of the negative points is that the events that also make this game so interesting, you start to see them on repeat. Sorry, excuse me, I'm a little stuffy today. you start to see them on repeat. So you'll find the same zombie ambush, the same Nazi ambush. The Pharaoh of the Night has some interesting ones, but the thing is that they start to get repetitive when I've had to play through it 3 times. So I'm not even reading the flavor text anymore, which at first is so interesting and adds so much flavor to the game and kept me kind of like, oh, this is cool, I found this Jeep, or I found this black monolith, to where it's like, if I read the first few sentences of like, I've seen this 5 times, I can just click through and I get the benefit of what it is. So that, when that started to get old, all I was left with was the combat. And I like the combat and the fact that it's kind of like a simplistic puzzle strategy game, where it becomes a thing of like, okay, well, they have 6 dudes, I have 2 dudes, who do I have to take out to try to get through this? But also the detriment is the fact that as you fight 10, 12 dudes, it becomes this battle of attrition, and the whole game becomes about attrition, where, alright, how much ammo do I have? How much health do I have? How much fuel do I have? And the attrition can kind of just suck because of the fact that, like, even if your character, the only way to kind of fight that attritionary stuff is to get your character leveled up to the point where, and have the gear to where it's super effective. Like here, my Tarnisha Ziski is a 29 to 40 assault rifle, and it can shoot at 8 tiles, it's got 4, the crit chance is 5%, and the barrel spread is low. So it's got all these different things with it. If we look over at just the normal, it's 19 to 30. That 10 jump in damage is what you need pretty much to be like, okay, well, he can one-shot one guy, he can one-shot the next guy. And so you kind of deal with this wave of mowing them down. But as the game increases in difficulty, unless you're finding this gear, you have to grind for this gear. You have to grind for the skill points to be able to one-shot enemies. And the moment you guys have to tandem to kill one soldier, the shots are starting to come in and rip off those armor points, rip off those health points. And, you know, you'll find that your guys will start going down. And once they go down, if you don't have a healer in your group, you have that many turns to finish the instance to try to save them. And if you don't, well then, fuck. The game doesn't want that to happen. It's a roguelike though, and this semi-permanent system is fun in the way that every time I bring Miguel back, like, Miguel's got, like, a freaking epic assault rifle on my other account, and, you know, he's just this badass Nazi-killing motherfucker, and that's great, but the amount that it took me to get him to there, and the fact that I'm still running into these events where it's like, oh, Miguel's great, but if he only had a few more points of damage, that cultist would be dead. Sucks. Like, the campaign continues to push you further and further up to the point where these gains that you're making, that you're grinding for, just suddenly become just not enough. And in the last episode of my playthrough where I lost, it started to happen with Miguel. Even though he's strong versus Nazis and he has this rare weapon, he's not getting the one-shot kills that he was earlier in that mission. Which is fine, difficulty's supposed to go up, and I shouldn't just fly through it, that's not what I'm saying either. But it's the fact that, you know, he was like my favorite character, he was in all my playthroughs up to that point, and he had the best armor, the best grenades, the best gun, he was my best character, and even with the plus, I'm gonna make sure I got the plus skill right, plus 20% damage versus Nazis, which at 40 isn't anything to scoff at. So 40, 10% of that is 4, 20% of that is 8. 48 damage, they have guys that are like just at 53. And that's frustrating because I didn't have a full party going into the final. And yeah, I didn't play to the most of my abilities, and that kind of led to it. But if you have to go recruit, make sure that once you recruit that you're watching out for all of these guys and you're not taking any risks of their health, which is a great part of the strategy. But sometimes, you know, with the way that this cover system is, it's a 70% chance, it's a 35% chance. You'll be like, they're behind a brick wall and there's like a 5% chance that they're gonna hit. It gets very XCOM in a way of some shots that you think your guy's perfectly safe in is not. And you can be 2 tiles away and not get a hit. And this XCOM type of stuff comes through even more in certain ways that the ability and ranges work. For instance, in the last episode that I did, I had Omar. And he has an ability, which I'm not sure if I can show off his ability in this menu. I might not be able to. Which is double shot, which is he fires his pistol twice. He can fire his pistol once at a zombie. But during that part, when I tried to use his double shot ability, it said it wasn't in range. And so that frustrated me due to the fact that if he can just lean out and take one shot, I don't understand how he can't lean out and take two shots. Because his two-shot ability works within his normal weapon range, usually, without an issue. And so it was just this little thing of like, well, why is it letting him just duck out and not use a special ability? Because he's ducking out anyway to take the normal shot. So there were a few instances in there where I tried to activate abilities and ranges changed. And for throwing grenades and stuff, I understand that. But for firing a gun just one more time, it shouldn't have led to kind of that skill difference. Of like, even if it is less percentage hit, to you, the skill was 100% with a normal shot. So it should have been around 70, but it was apparently out of range. Which, in other times through the playthrough, I use his double shot, and it works completely within the normal range of his pistol fire. So there's just a few little things like that of, you know, I've run into a few little errors that have frustrated me, and sometimes they're always in these situations where another 20 hit points or another 20 armor points at that point in the mission is the difference between victory and defeat. And defeat is going back and playing through that mission again after spending money to heal your guys back up. And if we look at the Let's Play, the missions get longer. They have multiple parts to them. They start to get more and more of this time investment. And what I originally liked about the game is how quickly I could play through and have a nice little mission, have some growth. And as I've gotten farther into it, I've had to save, come back to it, save, come back to it. And sometimes I don't remember where I'm at. I came back to the last Let's Play after a break due to some health issues, like my son getting sick and different things coming up. And I loaded up and I looked at it and I was like, no, I don't remember my characters' names because it's been a few days. And a lot of the ways that I play video games, at least for games in rotation, is that I'm lucky to play a video game every day. If everything in life works perfectly, I might get an hour. And so when they were one-shot missions, it was like, oh man, you know, I got Miguel up to level 2, or I got Jackson up to level 2, and he was great, or, you know, Baron was able to kill all these Nazis. And then the second one, it took me like 2 or 3 nights, and I was fine with that. But as the third one hit, and I'm working through it, I'll take like 4 days to get to near to the end of the third mission as I'm fighting these cultists and more of these kind of like dark, powery things that come into it. And then to lose all that and have to start back at step 1, it's not that it sucks, but it sucks, like, it does. So, for instance, like, here, I'll just, to just kind of show, I mean, you keep your items, so that's the nice thing. You keep all your items. I've got like this legendary stuff. So if I want to go in, I can depart into the mission. And just to kind of show what I'm talking about here is, it puts me back at the beginning, and then I'm back at the beginning of this 2-part level. So I start at the city. I'd have to go all the way up here again, which then leads you to the second map part. And in the third mission, there's even more of that. There's more multi-level things. And going back to the beginning can be frustrating, to say the least, in the way that it just gets exponentially more time in I'm having word vomit right now. Time intensive. There we go. That was the word I was looking for. It's nice though, you know, it shows you the characters you're playing, the mission you're playing. You can just click continue. But the reason it's out of my rotation is it's becoming more and more of a campaign commitment, and I kind of do want to eventually see where this game ends up at and ends because of the twist of this like Elder God-y stuff. I kind of think I know where they're going into the last few missions, because if you look at the adventures, you can see Friend in Need, The Wrath of God, Cairo, Egypt, The Black Pharaoh, Dreams in the Desert Sand in Arabia, and then at the end, the final frontier in East Africa. That's it. That's the last mission, which is at 5 difficulty. And the difficulty means a lot. Those skulls are fucking hard. In the way that the health goes up, and just like the more advanced enemy types go up. But so ultimately the reason this is kind of fallen out of my rotation, and for some people they might like the fact that it gets more intensive. And it takes more and more time to get through these things. It feels like a nice, like, campaign chapter, 5-chapter arc. But for me, and what I was getting out of this game at first, and where I end up with it now, is that it becomes way more roguelike and way more intensive. It makes me feel like I'm restarting an XCOM 2 campaign. But I'm not getting the same kind of meta system stuff that I get in the XCOM 2 campaign. And I don't get perhaps as many like tactical options and upgrade capability. All upgrades are very based around these random events that happen. I get lucky when I find a new gun. And it pushes you. You find new guns through like exploration. And sometimes you'll get lucky and find like treasure crypts and stuff. But mostly it's all about taking risks, trying to find just better gear, going back through, running it again. And as they take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't want to run the same mission that takes me 3 hours to run if I only have X hours of gaming in a week. And the games just weren't enough anymore for me to continue to play it. So I don't know how much more I have to say about Pathway, other than the fact I started really liking this game, and I still like it. It's just the fact that with everything that's going on in my life at the moment, to put in those 3 hours into Pathway when I could put 3 hours into some of the other things that I'll pick up and play it for like 20 minutes here and there, it becomes a thing of that, like the accessibility of Pathway ultimately is what hurts it for staying in my rotation and for me to continue. Because when I finished episode 4 and I lost, I was like, I'll just play it again. And I had gotten past the Wrath of God on my other account, and I was like, well, I'll go play it there some, see how I feel if I want to do some more of the series. And I couldn't bring myself to play Wrath of God again for the channel, and just generally because it wasn't something that I wanted to play anymore. And so this is kind of the end of my review, kind of talking about where I started with the game, where I'm at, why it's going out of my rotation. And I'm going to try to make one of these for every game that I play. And depending on how many episodes, it just depends on how much is that game still being played by me. And I did play Pathway through the absence of our video content, because obviously I did get to the Black Pyramid level, the Night of the Black Pharaoh. The Black Pyramid is how I think of it because of Cthulhu. But I did get to that level and spend time on that level before I came and did the episode for the quick play stuff, the let's play, the quick play. And so I knew kind of what I was going through and what I was getting into with it. And when I lost and I was like, I'm gonna have to redo Wrath of God, I just found myself being like, but there's other stuff that I want to show on the channel and play. And I was like, I'll just explain where I'm at with Pathway, what I liked about it, why I'm not playing it anymore, and just I thought it was a good way to kind of end these little play series sessions. So just let us know what you thought of it. If me kind of talking about why it's not on my rotation anymore and going over the game as like a mini review, mini talk of what we normally do at Games in Rotation is something you like and want to see more of on these things, or if you're just like, I didn't care for it. Either way is fine. As always, you can find us all over the place. The links are in the description. Feel free to subscribe. And look forward to the new Fan Fridays, Supporters Saturday, whatever. We're going to be playing with our fans soon. Look forward to it. Join our Discord, which is in the link in here to figure out more about that. As always, it's Corey from Games Rotation. Thanks for listening to my thoughts about Pathway and watching me play through it. And have a good night.